Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Tank. This is the IBC Gang channel. Here we talk about everything that's happening in the traditional markets as well as the crypto markets with a specific interest on what's happening within the Cosmos ecosystem. Today, I'm super excited and privileged to tell you all that we have a really awesome guest. His name is Lex from Passage, aka Also Strange. Well, I shouldn't say aka, Also Strange Clan. I've been super excited to have him on the show. I've had him on the show many times before. It's been a while, and so like I've been really hoping to have him on the show recently so that we can hear all these updates from the team on what both Passage and Strange Clan have been working on, what they've been doing behind the curtains throughout all this time. So without any further ado, let me actually just bring Lex in on the stream. My man Lex.
Yo, how's it going?
What's up, man? What is up? Super excited. I was just telling everybody, super pumped to have you on the stream. How's your day going, man?
Good. Dude, just another day in paradise.
Is
Hustling, building, family.
Is it a little bit less hot today? This first time in Tennessee in a while. Like the past 2 days have been like bearable.
Oh, it's been gorgeous. Yeah, man. I gotten outside doing some weightlifting, some walking. And
I saw that.
Yes.
I saw that you've been doing that. Good for you.
The kids like it. We were hanging out outside earlier. Yeah, it's just been like pretty compared to, I mean, I'm in Virginia, so I'm like further north than you. But it was a swamp for like a couple weeks, and then the last few days have just been.
I just got back from Mexico, and it was hot down there. But I was like, it's funny when you go down there and you're expecting it to be hotter, but it was like, I think it was worse up in the south, like up in the States for us. And I was like, oh my God, thank gosh I'm in Mexico right now. I can't believe it's actually better here.
That's so funny. Yeah.
But yeah, I just got back on Friday, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so humid and muggy. It was ugh. So I just came back from fishing today, and enjoyed it a little bit today. I'm glad that you're picking weightlifting is one of my things, one of my passions. I absolutely love it. I saw a video of you doing that as well. Not only doing it, but doing it outside, which I was like,
oh yeah, touching grass at the same time.
Yeah, it's literally touching grass. So really cool. Hey, let's just jump right into it. And I was telling you earlier, and just so that anybody watching, maybe now or later, we might actually have some guests. I know Joe had messaged me while I was fishing earlier today and asked me, and he's always got an open invitation to come and join. I've ran it by you. So if he does jump in, everybody don't be surprised. But yeah, let's go ahead and just jump on into it. But before we do, let's actually take a moment and assume people don't know who you are and or the things that you've been working on, Passage and Strange Clan. If you wouldn't mind, Lex, do me a favor. Could you give us a general recap of both who you are and what you've been working on?
Yeah, 100%. So I am the Chief Creative Officer over at Passage. And Passage is basically a world-building social platform. So it's a 3D experience where you can easily build worlds to interact with your community. It's primarily targeted towards creators and brands right now, kind of in the short term. The goal is that we are bringing in people who already have communities that can leverage this, right? It's something where people are going to get utility out of it immediately. That's kind of the audience we're targeting initially. And, some of those are, we've got obviously crypto communities, creative communities. We've got musicians who are building in Passage, kind of in the alpha stage right now. And it's more accessible than anything you've ever seen. But it's also prettier than anything you've ever seen, which is really cool because normally in order to get the really gorgeous graphics, you've got to have a bad boy like this over here, my big gaming PC. You got to have extra hardware, maybe a VR headset. And we've said this is basically the immersion level of VR without the hardware, right? that's really what we're talking about in terms of what this could be for communities and creators. That's where we're starting, is with that side of things. This will become something that's a benefit to games long term, and that's where StrangeClan comes in as well, because we believe that games are really one of our long term roadmap items, is so that we can add a unique social layer to games. It adds an accessibility to games through the streaming. Obviously, there's a whole component of decentralized assets and ownership within games. But some of the really cool experimentation, the way we really change kind of the model of social live streaming and things like that around games, is like down the road. Like, this is stuff is going to get integrated over time because it's a big lift. That's why StrangeClan is such a unique concept, because we get to design that from the ground up. But for other games to implement this, it's really going to be a little bit of a paradigm shift, right? This won't be something that happens overnight. We see the revolution in gaming on Passage happening as a long-term element as people see what's possible through examples like StrangeClan, right? But all that to say, StrangeClan is an action RPG building on Passage. Basically, they are two separate teams. And StrangeClan is partnered with Digital Void, which is a huge studio in the AAA gaming space. They've worked on games like Fortnite, Call of Duty. They just worked recently on a game called Rise of the Fallen within the last year or so. They came out in the last year or so. They had a lot of really good success, and publishers are basically really excited about what our partner Digital Void has been doing. They've been putting StrangeClan in front of a bunch of really exciting producers and publishers who can work with us to create exposure for the game, all kinds of things, right? There's a lot of opportunities that are kind of opening up to us on the StrangeClan side because of just our partnerships inside the 3D game development industry. And again,
I know them from Call of Duty, to be honest, because I'm one of those nerds that like to watch things at the end of every credits.
Oh,
and,
that's great.
I've recognized their name. I remember you guys originally talking about it to some other content creators, and I was like, oh yeah, I know who they are. Like I recognize
that's
that.
great.
But yeah, that's super cool.
DigitalVoid3D.com. You'll see both StrangeClan and Passage on the website. Incredible partners. We've loved working with them. And then we have, our in-house talent that's partnered with them on both, creative iteration of the game mechanics, like, we're all in. But there are kind of two separate teams that have formed around StrangeClan and Passage. Passage is a, product that's primarily targeted towards creators and brands. Initially, there's a huge scope of who Passage can address, but in terms of who we're really pushing to engage at the beginning to create the most growth for the platform, that's where the focus is. Then StrangeClan, which is the game building on Passage, that's going to give people a taste of what you can get out of Passage from the gaming perspective, as well as just something that we think is really needed in the Web3 space, which is just a good game, right? Like, first and foremost, we want StrangeClan to just be a solid game. And that's why it's fun working with traditional gaming partners like Digital Void, rather than just having partners focused around the Web3 side of things.
Mm-hmm. Kind of, yeah. So, and again, I'm trying to share. I'm again trying to get used to using Restream a lot more when Passage is fully ready. Hopefully, they'll all start exploring there.
Oh, 100%.
But I'm trying to share through Restream the Passage main. I don't think this is the main site, but if
this is the marketplace,
if I'm not sharing the right one, let me know, or you can even share your own screen as well.
Well, and this segues into kind of what's coming up, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is the Passage marketplace. If you go to marketplace.passage3d.com, right, it's on the Twitter page as well, so you make sure you get the right link, or in the Discord. I think we've got a Linktree link on Twitter that will get you to all the right places from both Passage and StrangeClan Twitters. And right now, this is a marketplace built on Juno, right? And the only collection, really what's exciting about StrangeClan, and a lot of people know the story, that StrangeClan launched at a time when there was no Cosmos marketplace for NFTs, right? Juno had just started, so our first sale wasn't even on-chain. It migrated on-chain. People claimed their asset on-chain later, once the marketplace was set up. But initially, we basically just collected people's addresses through a transaction, and through a purchase transaction when people were sending their Atom, and we used those to mint the NFTs later. So it was wild. There was a lot of trust involved in the community, but it's panned out nicely.
I went through both of them with you guys. I remember it.
Oh, the second one was a lot better. We had fun little road bumps through all of them. But the second one was a lot better. And then we have one more big transition coming up for the marketplace before we hit the public sale, because there's a lot of big events happening in the marketplace for the public sale. So what's going to happen is, for one, we've already migrated all of the Passage chain just went through a huge upgrade. All of our validators were a part of that. People who are keeping an eye on kind of the open validator chat and Discord in Passage can see kind of like, cool, how did that go? There was a bunch of upgrades there so that we can move the marketplace smart contracts over from Juno to Passage. So this will be happening on the Passage chain with our Passage validator set. It gets rid of some problems we were running into with performance for the marketplace, with running like archive nodes for Juno and like a bunch of like technical things that were just holding us back in terms of performance on the marketplace. So we'll have better performance. It's all going to be based on the Passage chain. Purchases will be made in the Passage token, and that will change in the future, where eventually, as we enable different IBC features, you'll be able to pay in whatever token you want. But it also ends up being kind of a feature for the token that people are doing transactions with Passage tokens initially. And then we'll enable things like purchasing your Huawei customizations with the Huawei token, things like that, where people can engage in all kinds of different assets. But that's one of the big upgrades that's happening right now, migrating the marketplace into the Passage dashboard for the Passage launch. It's happening end of this month.
See, I love that I've always loved their conversations, by the way. And it's not just my opinion. I mean, you're highly respected amongst many people, even that I know and don't know within our space. And I want to say this right now. The reason why this conversation even started is because, admittingly, I'm a bit confused. There's a lot of stuff going on. And if this has been a long building road, like you said, I love the expression, a lot of fun bumps. It's been a long, fun, bumpy road. And like most people kind of knew, right? Like this was going to be an evolving process and stuff like that. But for the long-term supporters, especially for the earlier on NFTs, such as myself, I'm just going to be speaking for myself. I was like, I'm in it. Let's just see where it goes. But it's been so long that I've admittedly not been active on Discord. I'm there. I have the Discords. I have everything.
There's so much to keep up with, dude.
There's so 100%. Much. Like, and even for me being a content creator, which is not an excuse. I will go out there and apologize right now. I said it already, but like I probably should have, with my concerns, with my questions, reached out to the team and asked this first. But there was so much things happening.
Yeah.
And this is a good productive way to catch myself up and everybody else as well, because I do have a lot of questions going forward, because you're kind of touching on a lot of the things that I've queued up as far as questions, and there's so many, right? There's so many. So we might actually have to double back on some of those. It might seem like we're doubling back, but because there's so many to go. So I just want to be absolutely clear, guys. Was never trying to FUD Strange Clan, Lex, Patches, the team. None of that, guys. I have Town 1, Town 2, have held, have not sold, even though I probably should have sold at like the profits that some people made on these NFTs were ridiculous. But I mean, I've always loved the projects. And so like I will admit it, and I want to say it to you and the rest of the team, apologies. I think what should become the norm now is whenever people have, especially when you do have access to, like myself, I do have access to conversations or contacts like you guys, you should actually explore and ask the team first instead of actually putting things out there. So that's my bad. I will 100% take, but I was drinking a lot of tequilas in Mexico. I'm not gonna lie. I was. It's not an excuse, but I was.
The other thing too is it's like sometimes it's just the medium of text is like you always wonder where people are coming from, and it's like when so much of your communication happens in this is another reason for Passage, right? It gives you an opportunity to have conversations face to face, right? Where you can bring your tequila up to the X world,
show everybody your excuse. I'm right. Hop
up on the stage and be like, hey, like what's going on with this thing, right? And everyone can see like, okay, cool, this is like whatever. They understand tone, they understand. And for me, it's like, again, I love being able to have these conversations. Any excuse to have these conversations is good with me, even if it's like just, a confusion point at first. That's totally fine, right? I'll use that as an excuse to start up a cool conversation. And, 100%. I mean, there's a lot of things there's a lot that, I mean, right now, I'll tell you, we've been going back and forth with our pioneers in the Passage Discord. And they've been helping me with like several different articles we're working on, threads that I've been writing up. And there's a lot to communicate, right? About like, what is Passage? How does this connect to StrangeClan? Where is StrangeClan in the process, right? Like, what are the next steps for each of these things? So yeah, excited to jump through more of those.
Cool. So let's so again, let's break it down step by step, just so people fully understand. Strange Clan, I'm sorry, this Passage is a content platform for creators and much more. Like that's just where I'm coming from. I see it
exactly.
as a content creator platform. It's the blockchain. Passage is the now blockchain that is powered by Akash, that's going to be running the Strange Clan game MMO. So
right, and on the Akash side, real quick, just a note in there. So the area where we're partnering with Akash and Akash comes in is specifically on the cloud compute side, right? So there's the Passage chain, which assets are stored on, right? So like, in order to have these decentralized assets, your relationships, your identity, your cool customizations, your game characters, those live on the Passage chain, which knows, okay, this belongs to this person, right? And it gives you the opportunity to own those assets truly. But then when you create your world, the world itself, there's some things that are logged on the chain, like ownership and identity, whatever.
Right.
But then there's other things that the chains are not meant to do certain kinds of processing, right? That's happening on a server somewhere, right?
Right.
And there's one area that we decentralize those services, those different compute components, is through decentralized databases using Source Network. So like, the way we store certain information is secure and decentralized, but then also doing the GPU compute, right? So Passage worlds are streamed, which means it doesn't have to run on your machine; it's running in the cloud. And we are integrating Akash decentralized cloud, specifically now that they have GPU compute, and it's a growing arsenal of GPUs, right? So like, it is still kind of in the early stages of GPU compute on Akash, but that's where that partnership grows, is specifically around kind of the hardware component and having decentralized access to that hardware. So if there's questions from the crowd around that, I know that's like, well, there's a lot of connections here, right? But that's how it fits together. Passage chain, Akash compute.
Okay. And also, anybody watching, if you guys have any questions at all, drop them in. I'm watching it right now. It's on YouTube. Actually, I don't actually have my my Twitter up. Give me 1 second so I can bring that up. And if I see any questions there, I will transfer it over to us. Give me 1 second. Yeah, but feel free to ask them, guys, because I have a bunch of questions, but I know for a fact that I don't have enough questions. There's a lot. But yeah, and I do want one of those chairs. I told my wife forever ago I wanted one of those chairs, man. Super jealous of it.
They're comfy.
I love it. Let me find it. Where is it at? There we go.
The bad thing about having a comfy chair though, is I don't use my standing desk as much. I have a standing desk.
Yeah, you have it.
So like I should be standing, right? But I'm like, but the chair's so comfy. So.
Yeah. I will say, stand, everybody, stand. I'm old, and trust me, you'll thank me later. Just stand every once in a while.
Yep,
it's bad. So the Passage platform eventually, when everything is up and running and out of test, is going to be ideally not only hosting, which, gosh, there's so much to do, but not only hosting the game, the MMO game, but it primarily is going to be for people like myself and more to host their content, to host, like, I look at it as like a cross or hybrid between YouTube and Twitch and like things like Zoom.
Yeah, and think about Patreon too, right?
And Patreon, yes.
Because the idea is, and Patreon is a really good example. There's a lot of level up from Patreon, because Patreon doesn't give you any tools to do stuff with your following, right? With your followers. It just gives you the way to monetize them. But what's interesting about Patreon is you don't start a Patreon. I mean, you shouldn't. I wouldn't recommend starting a Patreon if you don't already have followers, right? Yeah. No one's going to, like, the first day they meet you, pledge to spend a monthly amount on your content, right? Yeah. First, you build up your audience somewhere where they can access it for free, right? Or ads or whatever, some other lower entry level for monetization. And then you get your core audience to jump in through like a Patreon or a private Discord or things like that, right? Passage is like that at the outset. At the outset, it's going to be like that because the people who are going to put in the effort to create these worlds, to create these opportunities for a group of fans, they probably have to have people who are further in the relationship. We call it middle of funnel in terms of kind of the marketing pipeline, right? So top of funnel is YouTube. That's where you discover somebody potentially. Middle of funnel is Passage. That's where you go deeper. And what's cool is you might see their stream on YouTube and you're like, oh, that's cool. They're in a really cool virtual set. And then you see a live audience in there talking with them. You're like, wait, that's not a set. Like there's people in there. How do I get in there? Right.
Yep.
And you go in the description of the video and you're like, oh, there's a Passage link here. Right. And you click on that. And it's like, oh, if I join the membership, I can be inside the stream, not outside the stream.
You know, right? It's really funny, not to cut you off. I was explaining this with I took all of the boys in our family to go fishing, my father included. And my father's obviously a lot older. So I was I was really excited, like I was saying, to have you on, and I was trying to explain to him like what Passage is. And my brother's a streamer. So I have a twin brother. He's a streamer on Twitch. He's really big into it. And I was trying to explain it to him. And while I was sitting there, like trying to explain it to them, I had a realization that I think I understand what Passage is, at least for me, a lot better than what I previously understood it was. And you're explaining it right now. It's that middle ground for me to get more intimate with my community that I've already built. It's not the place that I'm going to get the big following, because let's just be honest. YouTube for now, maybe one day we'll get dethroned. YouTube is the biggest place. One of the biggest places for social media people to gain a following from. It's a huge pool, right? Same thing is like TikTok and all that stuff. If you're going to get you're going to go to those because it's the bigger pond to fish in. There's more fish. But doesn't matter how much I expand and capture the fish, or how many I get, the quality, once I gain that following, I'm going to want to, especially for the very, very loyal, very devout following that you do have, this committed group of intimate people that you do collect, you're going to want to offer something maybe more. And that's what Passage is. That's where I'm going to be able to go, now let's bring him over to Passage and get a little bit more intimate with them. Am I understanding? Do I think that is
100%? Okay. And this clip that I'm showing from this Twitter thread is basically illustrating that, where it's like, and I can show another example here, where you start off in they threw a foam seal on you start off in like a feed, right? Now this is showing starting in the Passage feed, right? But the other video shows starting in your YouTube feed. And all you have to do is click a link, right? And you can join to get inside of this hangout, right? And it's from the operational standpoint, it's not fundamentally different from what we're doing right now, right? You hop into a dashboard, you end up on stage, it's all based in the web, right? So it's just as easy to host, it's just as easy to hop in. And that's been the big barrier to entry, right? The reason so many people aren't doing like hangouts in Decentraland, or like even with small groups, right, is because you still have to do something to do. Like you can't just click a link. Somebody wants to show me a stream, YouTube stream or a video. They just send me a link and I click on it. And it doesn't matter if I have the YouTube app. It really doesn't. Like you'll probably download the YouTube app for browsing later, but you don't need it. And that's the same thing with Passage, where it's like, sure, like maybe there's an app at some point and you download that for more features, but you can do all of this stuff in the browser. And that's a beautiful thing. You can hop right into the stream as long as you're a member, right, for these creators. And so it gives people a really quick way to level up the relationship with their audience, because there's a lot of creators in this kind of like 10,000 to 100,000 followers, where they have a tight-knit community. They have 100 people who would pay them 10, 20, 30 bucks a month.
Which makes a big difference for content creators, guys. I'm telling you right now, compared to like how you get supposed revenue to marketing, which is nothing. It's breadcrumbs. Right. It's a lot.
Totally. And so being able to give those people some way to support you, that's not just like, subscribe to my YouTube and you get featured in the comments. You know what I mean? Like it's real, it's meaningful. It's a fundamentally different. You're in the stream versus being outside the stream. That's like a big barrier to cross, but we make it easy with the way that Passage works. So that's the concept there.
I love it. I was like sitting on the boat going, oh, wait a minute. I just had a thought. I actually understand it better now. It was really funny. Of course, like when I'm trying to explain it, he was like, you didn't even understand what you were doing. I was like, I did it. I didn't know what I was doing. Let me see here. Steph says Passage is also a nice way to stand out against all other streamers in the same niche. Yes, it is. And you are. you are always fighting for a way to stand out. You're always fighting for some kind of other offering that's going to make you more valuable than the next person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so in terms of you guys can check out this thread that's on my timeline, just like who is Passage for, and it does go through the creator application, how this works for like educators and coaches, for instance, too, because we've talked a lot about. This is kind of what I'm talking about, whether it's creators or brands, it's people who have something to benefit by connecting closer, right? And this could be everything from like this could be a salesperson, right? If you have a high-end product, if you're selling like expensive business equipment or cars or whatever, like this is a way to access a global audience with your sales process that does stand out, right? It's different, and you need a reason for a premium solution like Passage, right? Like, well, why wouldn't I just do my sales calls over Zoom, right? Okay, you want it to look different, right? And so for the people who have no audience, who have no product, who are just getting started, they probably don't have enough of a reason to use a premium solution over a basic solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're targeting this specifically towards people who are already on their journey, right? Again, they have that middle of funnel process. They've already made some progress in building their audience or their product or their sales, whatever it may be, right? So
yeah,
that's who Passage is for.
It's really funny because I feel like I'm one of them. Obviously, I'm going to be totally honest. I'm a small fish in a very big pond. But for most people who are content creators, and even, I feel so weird sometimes using that term. Like
Yeah.
anybody that's a talking head doing all that stuff on social media, most of us fit into that category of being in that kind of like in that section that would benefit from using something like Passage.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So again, we're just talking so far of the differences between Passage. We haven't even got on to Strange Cloud. Passage is the platform for content creators and even so much more to utilize to help facilitate a more intimate relationship between themselves and their followings, and or to present a better content for them and their following. Not also to be confused, though, Passage is the name of the blockchain that is going to be running everything, powered by Akash, correct?
Yes, exactly. So and the Akash part specifically comes into play not necessarily with the blockchain component, right? Because there's the Passage blockchain, which for worlds that are building on Passage is kind of the reconciliation layer. This is the layer that has to know who owns what for it to be decentralized ownership, right? Who owns this NFT from the marketplace? Who owns these followers, right? And some of those things can be mutual connections where we both, sign a contract, smart contract that says, we're followers. And if one person pieces out, then you're no longer friends on Passage, whatever. Right. There's a lot of different things that can be decentralized assets on the Passage chain. But then Akash comes in specifically for the streaming elements. So like what you see in the timeline when you're scrolling through the feed, you'll see your friends, their posts, creators you're following. That stuff is going to be fueled in the marketplace by the Passage chain because that's what knows who you're following, who are you, right? What assets do you have, things like that. That's all reconciled in the Passage chain. But then when you go to enter a stream, when you enter a world, basically, so that the only reason it can be displayed in your browser is because your computer doesn't actually have to run it. It's being run in the cloud and streamed to your computer. Akash is going to be one of the providers powering that solution, right? So you will have the option to, especially early on, as the Akash GPU.
You say I do want to make sure everybody else. You say one of the providers,
exactly.
Not the only. Okay, great.
Because the whole idea is right now the Akash GPU marketplace, the decentralized GPUs you can access through Akash. It's still early on, right? It is still a maturing marketplace, and so people will need to be able to have access to other GPU marketplaces like Google Cloud, AWS, things like that. And so the whole idea there is that they can get access, they can choose, and they have the option to decentralize and to test out the Akash. And Akash will be cheaper. It'll be the cheaper option, right?
Yeah.
But as it matures, you'll be able to do more with it, right? So basically, that really comes into play when you're launching your world, when people are entering your world. That's when we're leveraging their compute.
Will there be any benefit to somebody, say myself, who is building a world or launching a world to choosing one that is still developing like Akash? Like we're
Cheaper.
just
It'll be
cheap,
cheaper
just
per
cheaper, just
person,
cheap. Okay.
right? Yeah. So basically, you'll be able to give for when you're selling tickets to get into this experience. When you're selling memberships, you'll have you can create a bigger profit margin, right? Instead of charging like $1 or $2, you can charge 50 cents per entry, whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be things like that. Where like
Mhm.
that is where that's going to go over time. Is that I believe the decentralized marketplace is going to be much more competitive because there's
Yeah.
a lot of different people contributing to a cautious marketplace, whereas Google is just one mass of
I
GPUs.
I have a whole bunch of my 3060s from 30 couple anyway 30 series RTX cards from my ETH mining days,
Nice.
and I admittingly I've got maybe I still have to check my email somewhere, but I've been waiting to get on board. I know the 30 series are kind of lower now, especially with the 40s coming out, but like
Sure.
I'm all for it. Like I really want to get on board with it. I love that Akash is doing that. I
Oh
see a
yeah.
lot of people dipping into it, but man, again, so much things to always keep up with them. Like I just want to put
100%.
I literally have all those cards sitting right
Yeah.
there, just dying to be used, man.
Yep.
Dying to be used. So I will definitely be using when everything is up and going and stuff like that. I'll probably, no matter what, be using that option when I'm launching worlds or doing anything,
Yeah.
whether it's IBC gang or anything like that. I'm supportive of it. Like
Oh yeah.
it's a long term road, but
Yes.
if more people
Exactly.
don't use it, then that's we
Well, and
want to
that
get
is a
ourselves
cool
that way.
thing about Akash is that, yeah, I think there's a bunch of huge benefits there. We love having them as partners for
Mhm.
numerous reasons, but also like it is interesting when you look at other decentralized asset marketplaces. Like, shoot, there are a bunch of storage, maybe Filecoin, like things like that.
Mhm.
The percentage they may have these really large contributors. Oh, we've got all of this hard drive space for Filecoin or whatever, but a very small percentage of it is actually used.
Yeah.
Whereas Akash, they don't have the biggest offering of compute, but a much higher percentage is actually being used, right? Which shows there's a real use case. So the hope is that they grow because there's a demand for it, not just because people are trying to jump into some new trend, right?
Yeah, gosh, I
With
remember when I was doing my homework on Filecoin. I was gonna start mining and doing all those.
yeah,
Man, it was expensive, bro. And I mean, you start looking at the usage, like you're saying, you go,
oh yeah,
no way, like what?
it's not sustainable, right?
Yeah,
Because there's a bunch of sellers and very, very few buyers,
yeah,
right? And that's not where you want to be.
yeah. Um, let's like I said, I was probably gonna be going back, and we're probably gonna do this a few times. But as far as your validator lineup, how many validators are you guys? How many validators you guys have for the chain right now? What's the
Yeah,
lineup look like?
right now I think we have about 80
Okay.
validators. The limit right now is 100, I believe that we've set. So there will be an active set of 100. And it's all up to, governance going forward too, if we want to change the number of validators. But that's kind of what we started off with. So we actually launched the chain last year and it's been running
Mhm.
and the validators have been dedicated to it for about a year now. And so basically, when we just did the upgrade, we probably had like 10-ish validators who dropped off
Mhm.
because they were no longer validating the chain, which is
Yeah.
totally understandable. It's been a long time kind of in the making. We were intending to launch the public sale and inflation and all that last year, right?
Right.
So that's the point at which validating really has
There's been a lot
potential
of
is,
curveballs that's been thrown in the entire industry. So
yeah,
shit
exactly.
really
So Validator set is just heroic in terms of their commitment to the chain, which is really cool. And yeah, we've got about a set of 80 solid. We've got all the classics in there. We've got Gatikin and his team. We've got
Mhm.
Stakesito in there.
Yeah.
There's a
I
bunch of
remember because Oni back then, Oni and Kevin them, I know they were saying they were expressing their interest, and I believe they're still an active validator right now, right? Are they
yeah,
still
yeah,
active
yeah.
validators? Yeah.
I think so. And we have, I mean, like ZenChain Labs is
Mhm.
one that I always want to call out because they're just an incredible team that's contributed so much on the
Mhm.
Strange Clan ecosystem as well. But just you can see, obviously, in Cosmos in general, we've got a lot of really incredible infrastructure providers, but definitely the commitment has been high in terms of the passage validator set. So
Right. Now, is there with that going? I'm going to ask some seemingly generic questions, especially with what's happened recently, and I say that
sure.
within the last year. So please just kind of bear with me. A lot of these are just going to be kind of vanilla questions. Have there been foundation delegations to validators? And what does that
There
look like?
absolutely have.
Okay.
Right now, I do. I have to confirm. This is actually one of my some of my homework coming out of one of our blockchain meetings recently.
Mhm.
But I need to confirm whether or not we actually have all the delegations. I don't believe the foundation delegations are complete.
They're still
I have to
going.
check on that. Right.
Okay.
And part of that was just because we had not set a final date for the public launch and all of that, which was going to fundamentally change um, basically what like once inflation starts, that's when validators are actually getting a benefit from having a delegation, right? There's no benefit to having the delegation set up if there's no inflation, right?
Right. Right.
So point being, there wasn't necessarily urgency to it. There's been a lot of other things we're working through in this process. So that's something I have to check on if it's complete. But all of that's going to be done before the public sale happens. So that's when you'll see final foundation delegations. And then we have had some new validators come on. Basically, our point right now is new people who want to jump on. We've got the GitHub, we've got the repo you can access to start up a node. If you want to do that, you'll have to get access to public tokens at the public sale to do that. And we're going to reevaluate and rebalance delegations based off of validator performance, ecosystem contributions. As probably within the first month after the
Right.
public sale, we'll have some type of rebalancing. So we'll make sure there are key events like that to incentivize validators who are performing really well, contributing a lot to the ecosystem, and make sure that we're not promoting validators that are just mooching.
Yeah. And I'll just be completely transparent and honest. Like a lot of the stuff, I get asked to ask questions a lot of times, and I'll never like put out people's names because obviously, like, they don't get the daylight to say these things. But it's people's general concerns, especially with recently what people were talking about with the ICF and the hub having foundation delegations to certain validators, which they had opinions about and stuff like that. So I think now, I think while we go through growing pains, and that's what I like to label it in the space, it seems very, very hard. But one of the things that I really absolutely like, and I think is a huge benefit, is now we are hyper aware of what matters to us, as we
Oh
grow,
yeah.
and things like that. Nobody said ever that that they knew exactly that this was going to play out this way. We had the golden ticket. There was never going to be any problems or things like that. But as we're going through these things and as we're figuring out on this chain, hey, we didn't like that, and it goes forward to a new chain launching like Passage, people are going to be more hyper aware of that and asking these kind of questions. And people like yourselves and the team are going to be hyper aware of the concerns of the people
Oh
so
yeah.
that they're going to produce better outcomes. And I think, obviously, like we've said earlier, you guys, the whole team, being on the Passage side, Strength Con team, have always been very, very hyper aware. I like to think that you guys have been very like, instead of catching up later after the fact, you guys have been very, very active in front running some of these problems and being vocal with the community before they pop up and addressing them. So I really do appreciate that. That's what I was already looking for. I was going to ask you, is there going to be like a reevaluation of these delegations that get sent out
Yeah.
later on? Because that's, I think, something that anybody that's giving out foundation delegations to validators, whether it's from Genesis or not, like, you need to be super, super aware of what you're facilitating and what you're promoting. Like, I put out a tweet not too long ago of, it was something to say of like, you are what you put up with, and like, it's very
Oh yeah.
true. Like, if you put up with that kind of stuff, if you know it and you just kind of let it go under the radar, end of the road, like, long term, it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. And so as long as you guys are hyper aware, which you guys obviously are because you said it, that's really, really good. I'm glad to hear that, man. What is the inflation going to look like?
Yeah, so right now it's pretty low. I mean, that was one of the things that we adjusted in our recent kind of tokenomics shift.
Mhm.
We were talking to just a lot of advisors around the token launch, talking to the Akash team, and really just trying to figure out what makes sense based off of the experience of the teams that we're working with, obviously, right? We have a lot of really solid partners, like you said, people who have kind of been through this process with their token launch anywhere from 2020, 2021, like during key areas where it's like, yeah, maybe things started well, but this created problems for us down the road, whatever it may have been.
Yeah.
So Inflation was one of the things that we shifted so that it was a much lower percentage of the overall token supply. And I think right now we're talking about starting inflation rates, I think around 15%. Somebody can give you the more precise number. But the idea is that inflation is really meant to be a nice incentive, but a lower priority incentive that is very quickly replaced with real network value, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so for
It's not
people,
supposed to be the main value that you're hunting after. Yeah,
exactly. And it needs to be replaced as well because it's really a
Mhm.
temporary measure. It's just artificial to get people to commit, basically saying, hey, just jumping in is not enough because your tokens will devalue over time if you don't stake, if you don't lock them up. And so in order to capture the full value in this early time period, you should stake, right? But it's really a soft commitment. And the whole push is primarily for long-term value capture, right? And we're working on, this is something I've been going back and forth with our kind of inner circle community pioneers in the Passage Discord, getting feedback on kind of how we showcase the features of the token. And one of the two big things early on, the first thing very early on is just doing fun stuff with token holders, right? So like we're doing this fun sale uh, right during the stream swap event, right? The public token launch. We're going to be doing a sale of some really cool exclusive customizations, very limited number, very short period of time, entirely in Passage token, to give people some really cool things they can jump on, as well as doing a special Passage price. So pricing the Strange Clan mint in Passage tokens, right? For like 24 hours, right? Similar to what we did Christmas.
Mhm.
And that time we did like $300,000 in volume in 24 hours. So it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool things that we did around that.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea with the early utility is going to be one, participating in fun activities, right? Exclusive stuff happening on Passage, both events and opportunities and exclusive, collections. But then beyond that, we have kind of committed that there are our product model for Passage. There will be services that creators can pay for, right? But for the most part, any creator can get started for free, right? They can start
Right.
building out a world. They can set things up for free. There will also be things that are paid for creators. They can buy paid assets, but they'll also have access to a free collection of assets. There will be options for them. So you could start as a creator for free. But then there are lots of transactions that happen for creators and their fans, right? Fans can buy memberships from creators. This is everything from like a one-time pass to a monthly membership. So this could be monthly transactions from all of a creator's audience. And we're taking anywhere from 3 to 10% fees on those, right? Depending on the transaction. So you might have like 3% fees happening on reselling in the marketplace, whereas it might be 10% for a membership, things like that. And the idea would be that that's our profit model as Passage. That covers Passage operations, where we can grow the network, we can build out more features, and work on more content to push to creators. Basically the money from the sale, the money that's generated from the platform, is going to go towards more features and more assets, more things people can use to create stuff. And then also creating partnerships with other teams who can contribute different kinds of assets. So then out of that budget, so out of our total revenue, the goal is we're going to allocate 10% off the top line, right? This is not like 10% of profits or whatever, because it's not a profit split. This is 10% that we're dedicating towards network security, right? This is how the network becomes sustainable, because we take 10% of all the money that comes to Passage through the platform. So all the money that goes into the platform or goes to us into the platform. This isn't coming out of creators. Creators get 3 to 10% fee. Then of all of our revenue, we take 10% and dedicate it towards network security. That means staking incentives, right?
Mhm.
We have to find realistic, sustainable mechanisms for creating a sustainable blockchain where the people who are doing the hard work of securing the network have some kind of benefit, some kind of reward, right? And so the whole idea is that's just part of our budget. It's a line item in the budget that goes towards network security, and it's 10%. So the goal there being that really, like, in terms of light items, in terms of percentage of overall spend, that a big portion of what we're dedicating is towards network security, because we believe it's a long-term play. We believe that building up this decentralized network as a long-term play to being able to create something that's more valuable for creators.
By the way, I absolutely love. You guys probably have all seen it. Anybody's watched my show, you've seen my crazy monsters of children always come up. Even when I have these visual things up and stuff like that, they'll come up and like sneak behind me. I just saw like one of your kids' little heads trying to avoid being in there and like tiptoeing past. I was like, absolutely love it. I love that Lex is a family man like myself.
She's got a little like art station. I don't know if I'm actually able to show it. Like she's got her like crayons and stuff set up over by my skateboards.
Yeah. And, oh gosh, hell! Since you're showing,
we're co-working.
I got to show my madness over here as well. So if you guys can see it in the back here, this is oh, you guys can't see it. Wait, can you see it now? Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
back
okay,
here, you see that jujitsu dummy? That's,
nice.
That's their strangle. Is like I keep it there. It's usually in the gym, just so they don't bug me. I'm like, go kill that thing, please.
That's great. Yeah.
Anyway, so. Again, going back, I love the fact that you're kind of front running a lot of the questions, and it's making it a lot easier for myself. Absolutely love it because one of my questions earlier, and again, I guess sometimes I'm kind of still a little bit confused, and I guess it will make sense as I go on with my rambling here about like when I get that you say that the Passage platform and team are separate than Strange Clan, but like in a way, it's still like I get so confused because everything is kind of intertwined. And I was going to ask before I forget, early later on, how the Passage staker, like, or how the person, how are you guys going to generate value? And I absolutely love, or like incentivize people to secure the chain and stuff like that. I absolutely love that you've already answered that question, but it still kind of makes me think of where and it could just be because I'm so smooth brain, or there's so much to this that it's just flying over my head. Entertain this dumb thought of mine because this is where I'm getting confused. If the Passage platform is utilizing the Passage token for content creators like myself to in whichever way I want, I feel fit, like whatever features you guys have and stuff like that, and I can pay using Passage, and also Strange Clan, the game is something where they're using Passage, and I can do things in the game and outside to with the Passage token. And if the Passage platform is what the Strange Clan game is being built on, is it not all the same at the end of the day? Like is there I guess let me start off saying is anybody on the team members of both teams?
Sure. So we have common leadership, right?
All right.
But Strange Clan really does have a distinct development team. So they have a distinct team that's building out the game, the mechanics, the art. We have common leadership between the teams. So like from a team structure, Passage and Strange Clan are part of the same business family.
Yeah, there's got to be some overlap, right?
Like, absolutely. Like, yeah, 100%. And like this is definitely not like we have no affiliation. No, like obviously we collaborate really closely. We're all in the same Slack, right? But in terms of how we organize the team and in terms of what are the expectations for creating and receiving value, that's where we want to draw some distinct lines, right? Because the idea is 100% a big part of the Passage community has come from Strange Clan, right? And the interest and opportunity there. There are lots of really solid ties, and it's been a process of just ironing out where are the most powerful synergies, right? And ultimately, it's a lot like, there are a lot of applications and games that leverage the Ethereum blockchain. There's no affiliation between Ethereum and whatever games Axie Infinity are building on the platform, right? And so for us, the Strange Clan, in terms of there's going to be layers where anything that builds on Passage will have connections to the Passage blockchain, right? There's going to be some reference or reconciliation that happens where the Passage blockchain can know about the programs and people using the things that are tied to Passage, things that are leveraging Passage technology, right? And that's just going to be make sure that we have consistent ownership and whatnot throughout. But at the same time, we want every project to be able to leverage its own blockchain as well, right? Passage is not a kind of like chain-specific application. It is very much chain agnostic as a platform, so that if you want to come in and use your blockchain for certain elements, right, for certain benefits, you want to leverage your token. There's a lot of ways that people can do that, that doesn't really that doesn't take away the benefits from the passage chain. The passage chain still has to know who are you, right? Which worlds belong to you, which assets belong to you, whatever. But you can sell stuff in your own denomination, right? And we'll still take fees for passage on the back end, right? Which is invisible to the user. And that's not how it's going to be in the beginning. In the beginning, right now, everything's going to be denominated in passage, right?
Right.
Part of that is just convenience. Part of that is, a benefit for this period of time where we're launching the platform and the token. But the long-term evolution is that bring your own chain, right? And we've even talked with Saga about this idea of helping people to start chains by being able to leverage Saga chainlets, right? And things like that.
This is such a big project. This is such a, especially with everything that's been developing. Like it's such a, because like you said it earlier, right? Like with what's happening, and I absolutely love this, but it's like so mind-boggling, like how IBC and how everything is going to work within the cosmos in the future. Like the function, I don't even know what the technical term is, but the function. Timmy is the first one. First off, let me give him credit. When he first, it was like over a year ago when he first was trying to build ICI, and he was like, I want to put this thing on this dashboard where I maybe I have Osmo, and I want to like get to chain B, C, D, like, because that's how it was back then, right? Like if you wanted to get this, you had to get it on there and then transfer it over to here. And then, but you had to do it all manually. And now they have a feature that's been getting developed and nurtured within our space, like you were talking about, to where you can, hell, I think you can do it on Juno right now, where you can pay your gas fees, like your transactional fees, with different tokens other than the actual chain that you're hosted on.
Yeah.
Like it's, and then now you're saying to me that I can do things like in the future, hopefully on passage, to where it's not just the passage, like it'll all work in the back end. But like, say I have I have a lot more in Atom than I do in passage, but I still want to do whatever feature I'm doing on passage. Like I can pay that in. And so with all these things that are developing and coming out there, you guys have had to, I don't want to say pivot, but you guys have had to like put your footing and like adjust so many times to what's been developing in the market conditions. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. You guys haven't faltered already.
There's a lot of, it is tough. And there's been a difficulty in constantly pivoting to what's happening in the market. It is just a very volatile space, both in terms of roadblocks, but also in terms of opportunities, right? You get lots of opportunities because, this new technology develops, right? One of our partners that we announced is an AI 3D asset generator, right? And what's really unique about what they're doing, well, it comes from that whole AI development, right? And that is something that's relatively novel in the last year or so, right? And so stuff like that we couldn't have done previously. Sortium is the partner,
right.
And so like, yeah, there's been a lot of pivots. There's been a lot of just like recalculating kind of like what our plan is and how it makes sense. And at the same time, we've also had to like really put an effort into like narrow our focus. That's why we've really, some of the ways that we've narrowed are focusing in on who are we trying to serve first, right? It's not about where this can go in the future, because we all recognize, one of the biggest reactions I got when bringing people into demos of Passage is just this, they would just, as soon as they got in, they would look around, they would listen for a second, and then suddenly just be like, I've got 1,000 ideas. And they would start to
let the creators figure out where it's going to go, right?
Well, like, totally. Right. But the problem is people coming into Passage initially, like when we were doing these demos, they would just like, they'd have so many ideas. And I'm like, yes, it could be used for all of those things, right? Like the problem is picking, where do you start, right? And then 100%, you figure out who's doing well with wherever you've chosen to start, and you follow the natural evolution of demand for new features and developments, and where do you open up opportunities for different niches and things like that. So 100%, like it's been a process trying to narrow in, as well as pivot both for opportunities and for obstacles on the roadmap. Yeah, it's been an adventure for sure. Yeah. But it's good, right?
I love when you say it with such a smile all the time.
It's an expensive lesson, right? I mean, the time you put in, the effort and the resources you put in to like, this is my thesis about where this is going.
Right.
But it's good. It's really good because we've learned a lot, and just try to be transparent along the way about what we're figuring out, what's working, what's not working, and where we think the future is.
I love it, and I agree with you, Steph. I see you guys' comments. Sorry, I get so like focused on what Lex is saying sometimes that apologies. Sometimes I don't look down at the the comments and whatnot, but I definitely agree with you guys. It sometimes seems frustrating, but let me officially say this: Cosmos ecosystem. No, I don't think you guys are dead. At least I wouldn't be here. I would never like.
Yeah. Yep.
I do not think Cosmos is dead one bit. I think we're going through tremendous growing pains. But
Sure.
growing pains is great because that means we're growing. So,
Right. Right. Well, and
um,
shoot, man, you look at something like I was just looking today at osmosis versus like Astroport Phi,
mhm,
right? Which like what looks like a really powerful ecosystem coming out of Terra, um, and Cosmos is just coasting, right? It's like I don't think they've dropped nearly as much as so many other ecosystems have
yeah,
in this bear, right? But it was so funny that shoot, what's his face, Size Chad or whatever, compared us to Cardano.
yeah.
Thank you, thank you for comparing us to Cardano, right? Because what's the market cap of Cardano, right? Like you're comparing that to Osmosis all by itself. Cardano is a freaking ecosystem,
Yep.
and you're comparing that to Osmosis. Like that's saying a lot in terms of,
Yeah.
because he's talking about overall volume, and I'm just like, it's silly, right? And what's cool about about Cosmos and why we want to build Passage in this space is specifically that you don't not everyone has to succeed, right? You
Mhm.
need things like liquidity. Totally, you need liquidity. Like somebody has to be doing well there, or the ecosystem as a whole will suffer, right? But like that's why app-specific chains are so powerful. Look at crypto.com, right?
Yeah.
They've been in Chronos chain or whatever has been in Cosmos for a long time with
Mhm.
IBC enabled, and they're kind of an island, right? Like they created their own liquidity, right? If you
Yep.
want an opportunity, stop looking to somebody else to fix your problems and just make something people want.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Can't even say, guys, clip that. Just make something people want. That's such the answer. Um, Gosh, I already see that we're almost already at an hour, and I swear, Lex, we got to do this again. I do have a couple more
Totally.
questions,
Hit me.
but I
We'll do
don't want to
rapid
go for
fire.
too much longer. Um, well, I don't want to do rapid fire because I don't think it does you guys or us justice as far as the content. Um, let's skim through a couple of them. That I think are super, super important that people want to know about. There's been a lot of token adjustments, especially for original NFT Town 1, Town 2 holders. I know there was for my, I forgive me, I was able to like briefly go over and I watched some of you guys' video until it cut out in Mexico, which absolutely loved. After again, I make a post and I get to watch the video and go, fuck, I should have just watched that video. But I was able to watch a good part of that, and I saw there was some adjustments, even to the original amount. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think the original amount for each NFT if you held for Town 1, you were supposed to get 5,000, or is it for each, or is it a combined amount of 5,000 passage token? What's the new changes?
Great question. Stefan would know that if you want to drop that in the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually do not remember.
Yeah, and there's a
I don't
lot.
even know if I had like the original amounts committed to memory. Um, but I'm sure
I had to go
Stefan could
back and
drop
watch
that
some
in
of
the
our old
chat.
videos. I had to like go
Yeah.
back and go, so what the heck did we talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll figure that out. You guys already you already went through like the passage token and value capture for you guys, how you guys are going to be putting that back. Tom one, he said for
14,000 passage, Town 2, 7,000 passage.
nice for each NFT.
Yep.
Wow, I'm gonna get a lot of freaking passage tokens.
Well, and we're doing one more snapshot. So this is another fun event happening during the public launch of the token. And we'll do one more snapshot of Strange Clan mints. So anybody
Okay.
who mints, not just buying off the marketplace, but if you mint one, because there's still some remaining in the Town Tune mints.
Yeah, I looked at that the other day. I was like, there's still Town 2 mints. And if
Yup.
you wait, if you is how much is it right now? How much are the because I would dude,
It's like 44 Atom, I think, right now.
yeah,
So
it's
there's
a
going
lot
to be a
cheaper than when I
special,
bought my Town 1 and Town 2. So I'll tell you
well,
that
especially
right
with
now.
Atom being where it's at, 100%.
Yeah.
And if we, we're going to be doing a special passage sale price. So we'll price it in passage tokens. We'll do a fun little event, right? Such
Right.
that people will have a fun reason to jump into the mint, join the Strange Clan community, and also have kind of like an intro to the passage community through that drop.
Okay. Again, to in chat, if Lex, if you know, just guys, just answer it in chat as well. I remember the eggs. We got like a whole bunch of eggs, right? I remember that. Are
Yep.
those still in play? What's going on with those
Yeah,
eggs?
100%. So, I mean, a lot of this is just stuff that's gotten pushed back in terms of timeline because of what we've been doing with Passage, the Passage infrastructure, right? So, what has to happen for the egg staking functionality to go live is we have to do the marketplace upgrade. Um, and right now, what we're doing on the marketplace is we're migrating the contracts over to the Passage chain and getting the marketplace up and running with the most recent performance upgrades in the Passage dashboard. So everything's going to be in one place. So go to passage.io and that'll be it, right? Um, so the whole idea is that we just have to get that stuff out of the way, which is happening before the launch sale. And then we already have the staking contracts for the eggs live. We have to make there's a general purpose staking vault, essentially, for staking NFTs that we've already built out the smart contract for. What we have to do is basically create a contract that says how the eggs get locked up. That dictates some of those rules. So there's a little bit more smart contract work to do. But we have all the assets. So all of the creatures have been created, I will say, that are coming out of those eggs. Like there's a lot of groundwork that's been laid. And really, the big part of it has just been the launch has gotten pushed back. Closed alpha has gotten pushed back in terms of like what we were doing for the closed alpha. But now we have people in the dashboard testing that out in closed alpha from our Pioneer community. We have a bunch of alpha testers. And things are moving forward steadily, which is good. We don't have like a specific date set for the egg staking, but we'll get there. And once we knock these things out, then that frees us up to be able to set up the next steps for the eggs.
Awesome. I'm glad, guys. I'm sharing one of my wallets right here. This is one of my favorite cats. It's not like I don't have any one of them that are like, oh, ooh, like laser eyes or anything like. But honestly, this has been one of my favorite cats right here, and I
Oh, I
got a
love
bunch
it.
of eggs and stuff like that. But absolutely love it. There was some. We were talking on a space, and I was like, do you know how many times? How many times? Because I'm an investor, right? I'm always like, oh, profits. There was so many times that I was like, I should sell these things. I should sell these things right now because the
Dude,
secondary market,
Liam,
bro, he
Liam
killed them out.
shamelessly, and a couple other people shamelessly were like, "Yeah, I sold," and then bought back in later.
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, hey,
dude, I
I
should
didn't
have. Not
sell,
gonna
and
lie,
I
I should have because the damn thing, it was like a 10x minimum at like a lot of
yes,
times.
yes. In terms of profit opportunity, there have been some really unique opportunities. I will say, yeah, I mean, for us, obviously, I can't speak to that, right? I can't speak to the
Right,
profit
right, right,
opportunity. I can't. For
right.
me, it's all about we're continuing to add utility. Super excited for the roadmap with the Digital Void team, just the AAA studios that we're connecting with through them, publishers, producers for Strange Clan. Lots of big developments lining up for that. But then, yeah, also, yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know. For me, it's about the experience, right?
Yeah.
I shamelessly put in like I think 15 grand into Strangeland characters at like probably the peak. Um, and it's cool because I got some of the ones that I wanted. And it was a ton of
Yeah.
fun. And
Yeah.
it's one of
Yeah.
those things where it's like, yeah, we do crazy things in the bull market, and that's just how it is. And you always have to, okay, guys, balance and everything, right?
Yes. Yes.
But again, everybody has a different goal in terms of the collecting opportunity. Some people, it's not about the short term opportunity; it's about long term. It's about utility, whatever. There's a lot of reasons to get into this, and a lot of different pathways. So we have seen all kinds of wildness happening in Strange Clan. And what's fun for me is that it's just totally unique from anything else going on in
This
Cosmos.
is why I didn't want to sell it. It's just so unique. Like
Yeah,
I don't want to see, for me, when I look at the data on the NFT that it went from this person to this person, I want to see that it came to me.
yeah,
I own this kind
yeah,
of thing. It's like
100%.
there's no other one. It's kind of, I see Steph says my precious. I literally felt like
Yeah,
calling it, like I was like, my precious was
yep.
mine, Smeagol's. But yeah,
Well, and dude,
totally
talk
understand.
about evolution, even in terms of the design of the characters, right? We have these NFT designs for both Town 1 and Town 2 that are these like squat, like Joe said, the jacked, our squat guys are, and yet we did a huge pivot in finessing the design style for the 3D. First, we did the 3D characters in this style, and we're just like, this doesn't feel high production, right?
Mhm.
And so they're different styles, right? The 3D characters look pretty different than the 2D characters. You can tell that they're the same characters, right? It's the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
animals, it's the same assets, But what's cool is it's a different interpretation of that, right? So there's a giant bunny character we made that has that same pirate outfit from your cat,
Yeah.
and it's gorgeous, right? Like we love like the way, because you see a lot of the evolution of the design. So that's been a cool process too. It's just seeing like how the designs have evolved, and you have a piece of history when you own the NFT, right?
Yeah.
People who jump into the game and don't take advantage of the NFTs, they don't get to see that really cool collectible element. And
Yeah.
my hope is that we get into the point where we have millions of users playing Strange Clan, and there's still only 10,000 NFT holders.
Yeah, I can't
Because
wait to stream at like Strange
oh
Con.
yeah,
I cannot wait to stream. I'm a dork inside, bro. I love
good.
streaming games. Um, Franco Colombo must have been the so, yeah, one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time, man.
There you go, man.
I swear, every single time I see that card go by. So, again, I'm getting kind of fanboyish again. But let me before we run out of time.
Please.
With the NFT mints, you guys did extremely, especially with Town One mint.
Oh yeah, biggest mint in all of Cosmos.
Yeah,
over
it was
$2 million.
It's really funny because, and I'm not coming at anybody, I promise you. I'm just being honest about it. Like everybody's like, oh, bad kids, bad kids. I'm like, Strange Clan. Like, what do you guys remember
I
Strange?
love Bad Kids. We've
I
reached
love
out
them.
to
Yeah,
Bad
I
Kids.
love them.
We've reached out. I want to do a Passage World, Bad Kids Clubhouse, whatever. I posted on this about Twitter because somebody mentioned Bad Kids in one of my in reply to one of my posts, and I'm like, dude, I'm totally down for it. I reached out to the team, would love to make that happen, and I would say that's one of the other most hype collections in Cosmos, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not Strange Clan, it's Bad Kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at just like overall stats, you can go look at the on Strange Clan.
You guys had Strange Clan fans or something like that, right? Somebody built it out. I remember that. It was
that was Entain Labs.
Oh,
right?
actually, I have it right here. I have it actually up to,
and if you go to transaction volume for if you click on Town One and go to transactions,
yeah, right here.
Yep, it'll show you the insights for exactly right, 4.78 million. And when you add that up to Town Two is not nearly as much sales volume, but
Okay,
we've done about 5 million plus in sales volume. This is not including the mints, right? This is just aftermarket.
Yeah,
sales.
secondary after. Yeah, okay,
exactly, and that is approximately as much, really close to all of these sales volume across every Stargaze collection, right? So that's the difference. Now, again, Bad Kids makes up a big portion of the transaction volume on Stargaze, so they've done really well. But we literally match the volume of the entire network of Stargaze with just the Strange Clan collection. It's unique. It's an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
And part of it was absolutely the timing as well, right? We jumped in at a really unique moment where there weren't NFTs on Cosmos, right? So it was a really unique opportunity. And that was just our, that's my general mode of operation. Is I see an opportunity, I see a thing that I want to create, and what's the fastest route to make it happen? And we made it happen. And it was messy, and it was fun, and it was wild.
It was a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah.
I
so degen.
fondly go back to, and it's so easy to get caught up in the times now, but I finally go back to like, oh man, do you just remember like just a little over a year ago, things were so different. So different. This was so much fun. This is the Town 2. Like, yeah, it's insane. Which leads me to ask. I have to ask for the original. Maybe it's because my mind pushes it out, and I just don't want to think of the hurt. But I have to ask a hard question because somebody asked me to ask you this.
Totally.
Was the funds captured from the mints exposed to what had happened with Terra and or FTX at any given time?
Not really. I mean, for one, we never had any investments. Like we're not investors, right? So for us, actually the place where we lost some funds was not in the Strange Clan assets at all. It was actually, I can pretty confidently say, not a single dime, except for just like general market hurt, right?
Yeah.
If we had part of our assets stored in Atom, which we didn't have much, frankly. I think
good for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, good for seriously good for I can't. Joe's in here, right? We were grumpy old men all the time, right? Like,
yeah,
I cannot stand how much times I hear. Like, I get it, but I cannot stand, and it makes me sick to hear so many different teams, no matter what they were developing. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we had this exposure, we didn't diversify, we didn't capture it, like truly capture that funding. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, why? What were
Yep.
you doing?
Yeah.
So anyway, so go
100%.
ahead, go ahead, go on.
And that isn't to say, during peak opportunity, we didn't have money in like, oh man, I'm totally forgetting what it was. The big Luna, 20% staking or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
What was it?
Now you're having me back because I had money in it too, guys. Tell us in the chat, what was it again? It was
Yeah,
I see my mind tries to push it out because I don't like to think of the hurt.
right. I've got like,
Yes.
well, I've got some crazy stories too, because I, by the grace of God, sold all of my Luna assets, um, like to set up a house for my in-laws, because my father-in-law was had like increasing medical needs, whatever. We wanted them right next to us. So they're in a house right next to us. Yeah, it was UST, but what was the
What was the platform? Was
yeah, Anchor.
Anchor? Thank you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep, there you go. Nice, Emily.
Thank God I was gonna
Um,
have a stroke thinking about it if I didn't get it
I
out.
know, right? But by the grace of God, like I had that opportunity, basically sold all of my assets to be able to help out my parents. And the next week, the only time in my career that I've ever gone radio silent was that following week. Um, and I didn't get any of the notifications about the UST crash and all of that until the Friday after it had happened, when I'm on a plane back from a trip with my wife. And it was the only time I'd been radio silent, kind of totally disconnected, turned up, like deleted my apps, and didn't hear squat until I got back. And then I was like, basically, I would have lost everything. I would have lost,
Yeah.
like I had way too much of my portfolio in that. So personally, definitely a narrow miss by God's providence. But then in terms of the team funds, like I think at some point we had some money in Anchor, but we were pretty diligent about like moving that out. And then also, we accepted UST for the or the Passage DG entity accepted UST for Passage tokens, and there was like some amount of loss on that. I think we got out at like 85 cents for like a section of tokens, right? That was in UST, whatever. Like it was like, it was not a huge hit on us, and it was primarily on the Passage side of funds, right?
Yeah.
So personal Passage, but StrangeClan really wasn't touched by that stuff. It was far enough out, and those funds were separate, right?
Nice.
So essentially, for StrangeClan, definitely avoided a bullet in terms of that, just because we've always been relatively low risk in how we're managing community funds, how we're managing team funds. Personally, I can be a little bit of a degen, especially when it comes to my own projects, because
Right.
I'm a builder, not an investor, right? And so for me, it's like I'll degen into StrangeClan and I'll do whatever people are doing. Like I know I love trying stuff out, right? And other cool tools. But as a team, we've always been pretty risk off.
Nice. Good. I'm glad to hear that, man. Well, again, I said I was going to try to keep it under, guys. We're getting close to 4 o'clock here where I'm at. And so I'm going to shut it down. Like, I don't want to, but I'm going to shut it down just for the sake of everybody watching. But we'll
jump back
do this
in
again. Yeah.
Especially closer to the Passage public launch. Like there are going to be lots of cool opportunities for that.
Can I twist your fingers, twist your arm, twist whatever I need to twist? You and the team. I'm gonna put this up. I've already reached out to you, and I humbly respect it. But Joe and I and a few others are trying to put on an NFT event here in Nashville. We would love if you guys have some kind of merch or something. I know you guys can't be there as sponsors, but if there is some kind of way that we can get StrangeClan there and represented, we would absolutely love it. I would absolutely.
I'd love that. Let's figure it out. I know there's something we can do, because I love being able to collaborate with people on like physical activations. For me, like that is the dream, right?
Yeah.
Being a remote team that's all over the country, it's like it's always difficult to like organize stuff in one place or get like team members across the country, whatever. But 100%, there's something we can definitely do. I'm super down to that. We can collaborate on like a design for a merch thing or something or whatever. I'm super open.
Yeah, I feel like the conversation, because this is exactly right, like the NFTs and what you guys are doing with passes and stuff like that, and StrangeClan Glam. This is what we're trying to do when it comes to facilitating the conversation on nurturing the development and narrative for NFTs and how they've been viewed, how they hopefully will be viewed in the future, and how they're going to be utilized in the greater space, not just Cosmos, in the greater space. And you guys are such great leaders on what you guys have done with StrangeClan NFTs and Passage and StrangeClan, that it would Like if you guys aren't there, like I'm just gonna there's a small piece of my heart that's gonna be drinking like whiskey for him. Let's be head down. They're not here. So yeah, let's definitely figure that out, man. Let's figure that out.
Cool. And then
Cool.
also, I told Joe, and I'm super down to push the needle forward here in terms of like we got to line up for the next event, being able to integrate Passage, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of like timeline, like now is the time to start getting people in, testing stuff out and making plans for next year, even for later this year for stuff, because things are about to get busy on our side in terms of just like what's lining up for the roadmap. So like the more things we can kind of slot in now, let's make it
We could
happen.
have done it before November 4th. That would imagine, guys. Imagine being able to just like walk around virtually Passage like
Yeah.
at NFT Nashville. That would have been freaking awesome.
Yep,
But
yep.
anyway, but Lex, very much appreciate you. Thank you for coming and answer some of my questions. I still have
Oh, my
so much more
pleasure.
questions. We could do this for so long, dude.
Let's do
Let's
it.
get together again. Let's even bring in Joe too. I know there's so many people that would love to, ask you questions as well. But yeah, appreciate you, brother. Everybody watching, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out Passage Strange Clan. Pick yourself up a town too. It's still minting. Like Lex said, there might be some benefits to doing so.
There will be absolutely be another snapshot that happens, but also we'll do a fun little sale around the time of the public launch. So keep an eye out for details for that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, man. Enjoy your day.
Peace.
Later, man.